Am I the a-hole for calling my stepmom a whore? A few months ago, I literally never would have thought I'd be making this post, but here we go. My 16 female mom and dad got divorced a few months ago this year, and it was devastating for the whole family, but by far the worst on my mom. My dad had been cheating on her for 4 to 5 months with this woman from his department at work, called Laura, and basically as soon as the divorce was finalized literally this summer, he married Laura in a small wedding that I refused to go to. Background on my mom, 43 female. She is probably my favorite person in the world. She's genuinely so sweet and gentle and has always been my primary caregiver / emotional support throughout my whole life. Thanks a lot, Dad. And she was always really loyal to him. So this was not a both cheating situation. She was obviously distraught when my dad confessed to cheating and left. But I can tell she tried to hide it from me a bit because she would always tell me to go out with my friends whenever she was crying or doing legal stuff around the divorce. Laura, 41 female, is the opposite of my mom. She is vapid and annoying, and very much the dumb, shallow, bleach blonde type that makes you think she would be 19 in terms of emotional maturity. But no, she's actually middle-aged and only 2 years younger than my mom. She knew my mom was married to my dad and apparently embraced her role as mistress for months, even though she knew I existed because I saw her a couple of times in passing when I went to my dad's work, and he introduced me to Laura as his daughter. Laura has really been embracing the wife role since my parents' divorce and has been acting as though she's now some kind of a trad wife angel, always making bread and acting sweet with me and stuff, as though she wasn't being a massive home wrecker this summer when I was doing my GCSEs. My parents get joint custody of me and live in the same small town. So at weekends, I stay with my dad and have to put up with him and his affair partner. I still think of Laura as that, lol, acting all lovey-dovey. I usually just stay in my room until it's over. I hate Laura, obviously. My relationship with my dad is more complex because although I'm furious with him, I still sort of love him because he's my dad. It culminated at breakfast this morning when Laura tried to call herself my stepmom when I said that a parents' evening at school was coming up, so my dad would have to go. She apparently wanted to go too. I was in a bad mood because I hate mornings anyway, so I muttered something mean about her intelligence under my breath. The conversation was basically as follows, summarized slightly. Her, don't talk to me like that, please, young lady. Me, I'll talk to you how I want. I know this was pretty rude. Please don't judge me too harshly. Her, I am your dad's wife now, and you just have to accept that, unfortunately. Me, and this is where it goes wrong. A whore with a ring is still a whore. That's when the conversation ended because Laura burst into tears, and my dad got really mad. I'm currently in my room writing this, not sure what to do. I'm starting to feel kind of guilty because it was my dad who cheated. But I don't forgive Laura, and I don't think I'll ever like her. I hate making people cry though, and I don't know whether to go down and apologize or stand my ground on this. My dad and Laura are acting like I said something crazy out of line, so I'm starting to think insulting her was the wrong move because I don't want to start some new massive family drama. Please tell me if I'm the a-hole, and if so, how can I make this right? Now for the top comments before reading the mini update. As a divorced parent with children of 14 and 9 and a lot of issues with the ex-wife, I have been through a lot of family court stuff. Our eldest kid moved away from mom to live with me, and I'd like to offer you this thought. You are 16 years old, and you mentioned GCSEs, so I'm assuming UK family law applies here. If you don't want to go and stay with your dad because of his new partner and your opinion of this contribution to the end of the marriage to your mom, then to be honest, you can choose to do that. Family court orders are only in play if everyone agrees to them, and they're set up for the benefit of this child, that is, you. If you don't agree with them, you can just turn around and say, I'm not going to dad's, and a family court / social services, etc. will support this. My eldest is only 14 and has just done this literally for this weekend. Mom had no ground to stand on. I supported the kid because I understand why he has made this request, even though it's ruined my child-free plans for the weekend, lol. Thanks for the advice. I'm going to try and stay with my mom full-time from now on. And while I don't want to cut off my dad completely, I think I need time apart from him for a while to collect myself. There's nothing saying you can't head out and meet your dad for lunch or a film. and do something just the two of you whenever you get your head straight and want to be around him again. I think if you keep going to his every weekend like you are now, you're not giving yourself time to heal / come to terms with everything, and you'll end up resentful at him. That'll definitely harm your relationship with him in the long run compared to taking time away now. You've got a good head on your shoulders, Petal. Take care of yourself and give your mom a big hug when you go back home to her. You'll both feel better after a good hug. At 16, you're entitled to live wherever you like. Just live with your mother. By the time they get court orders finalized, you'll be 18 anyway. You can then see your dad on your terms if he isn't a complete a-hole. Thanks. That's what I've been trying to do. I want to maintain some sort of relationship with my dad, but obviously this has majorly soured it. I think people forget that when a parent cheats, it doesn't just affect the betrayed spouse, but also the children they have together. He put getting laid and cheating on your mother above you too, with zero regards in how it would affect his wife or his child. He betrayed you. I'm sorry about your situation, and I hope everything will turn out better for you. Sending you support from afar. So true. My dad always said, when a man cheats on his wife, he isn't just cheating on her. He's cheating on his entire family. Edit/mini update. Thank you so much to everyone supportive in these comments. I've decided to talk this through with a therapist, and I will try and live full-time with my mom now. I will not be cutting off my dad completely, but I'm gonna take a break and collect myself before I'm ready to spend time with him again. I appreciate all the good advice I've been given. Just to clarify, I am not more angry at Laura than my father. I know at the end of the day, it's Dad who broke the wedding vows. Trust me, he has had his tirade, lol. This is just specifically about her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for hosting a divorce party with my daughter the day my divorce proceedings against my cheating ex-wife were finalized? After almost a year, my divorce proceedings got finalized, and I was happy that it was finally over. My ex-wife had cheated on me and had an emotional affair, and that was the reason of the divorce. We also have a daughter who's 14, and she knows everything that happened. I hosted a party the day my proceedings were finalized, and I invited a couple of my friends and my sister over. My daughter was in the house too, and she seemed to be having a good time. We had nice food, drinks, dancing, karaoke night, and it was a good atmosphere. My sister also recommended we could burn the wedding photos I had in my wife's gifts, and it was a great suggestion. We even cooked s'mores over the fire. The next week, however, my ex-wife called and asked why I had done that, and that she felt degraded and humiliated, especially since we did it in front of our daughter. I told her our daughter wasn't affected by it, and in fact, she seemed to enjoy participating in throwing away the gifts in the fire. I told my ex-wife her issues are her issues, and to not involve me in them anymore. Was I the a-hole? Getting the kid involved is crappy, even if she enjoyed it. That has potentially to go boom in family court if things take a turn in that direction. Your ex-wife is an a-hole obviously, but don't be an a-hole too, especially in front of your kid. Yes, number one of a co-parenting relationship is don't talk smack about the other parent. You can be honest and truthful about what happened, but you have to learn to separate your feelings in front of your child. She's not your wife anymore, but she is still the mother of your child. Your child is going to internalize every awful thing you say about her mother, and that is not healthy for your child. By all means, do have that party on your own time, but it should not have happened in front of your minor child. You're the a-hole. Throwing a party is one thing. Involving your daughter in the burning of photos of her mother was way too far. I think burning the pictures when you have a child is already a bit reckless, regardless of involvement. You don't want the pictures, that's fine, but your daughter might want photos of her family together. You might just have to throw those in the attic instead of burning when you have a kid. If it was wedding photos, that might be alright if there are likely copies, but you have to consider whether your kid might want photos of mom and dad together 10 years down the line. My mom did that. As much as my father is an a-hole, he cheated on her with his secretary. I was angry at her for doing so, because it's my story. I lost a huge tangible piece of my story. My kids don't have the classic pictures of their grandparents' wedding. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not being okay with my husband's ex moving into our guest room even though she has nowhere else to go? My husband, 34 male, and I, 29 female, recently bought our first home together, and we were excited to finally have a space that was ours. A few weeks ago, my husband's ex-wife, 32 female, reached out to him with a request that completely threw me off. She asked if she could move into our guest room for a couple of months. She recently broke up with her boyfriend, lost her apartment, and claims she has nowhere else to go. I understand they share an 8-year-old daughter and they have a good co-parenting relationship, but this feels like too much. My husband didn't even consult me before telling her it might be possible. He just expected me to be okay with it because it's temporary and for the sake of their daughter. I offered to help her find another solution, even offering to chip in for a hotel or a rental, but my husband shut that down, saying I was making things difficult for no reason. He's been pushing hard, saying their daughter would benefit from her mom being nearby during this transitional time, but it feels manipulative to use their daughter as an excuse. Plus, his ex started texting him constantly way more than usual, and he's acting like her emotional support system. I can't help but feel like this is crossing a line. They're divorced, yet now I'm supposed to live with both of them under one roof? It feels like I'm being pushed out of my own home. This morning things got worse. His ex texted me directly saying I must not care about their daughter if I'm unwilling to help. That's just not true. I care about their daughter, but I never agreed to share my home with his ex-wife. I feel like I'm being made out to be the bad guy here when all I want is reasonable boundaries. Now my husband and I are barely speaking. He's acting like I'm heartless for not wanting to help, but I feel like I'm being forced into a situation that makes me deeply uncomfortable. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. His ex texted me directly, saying I must not care about their daughter if I'm unwilling to help. If they cared about their daughter, they wouldn't have set up this insanely tense living situation and skewed her understanding of healthy boundaries. Not the a-hole. That's exactly what I've been thinking. How is creating a tense, awkward environment beneficial for their daughter? It's definitely not teaching her healthy boundaries. I'm all for supporting her well-being, but this situation seems like it would only cause more confusion and stress for everyone involved, especially their daughter. They're trying to frame it as what's best for her, but honestly, it feels more like they're just avoiding other solutions that would be much healthier for all of us. Even if this isn't malicious, it would be extremely confusing. What if the daughter got it in her head that her parents would get back together and OP was in the way? Although honestly, this is so weird. Be very clear. If he wants her to move in so badly, he can buy you out of the house and you'll move out. Be very clear that he won't share a home or a husband with his ex. No hinting, no subtlety, no room for interpretation. I'm not telling you that she can't move in. I'm telling you that I won't share a house or a spouse with your ex. If she moves in, I'll be moving out. And I want it in writing before she takes residence that you're buying me out of full market value and that you understand why I'm leaving. From there, should you still want to move her in, communicate only by text or email, so you have a paper trail for your lawyer. I completely agree. The fact that he would not even make this a discussion between him and his wife before making the decision to move her in is a huge red flag. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my grandpa he needs to cut off my mom to have a relationship with me? Title is a lie. I don't want him to be in my life, period. But I just needed something to actually get him to back off. So I, 21 male, have never had a relationship with my mom. She's never been in my life at all. My dad said she didn't want to be my mom anymore when I was around 2, and just left and has just paid child support. He tried for months to initiate contact and try to get her to see me, but she refused. It caused some identity problems, as well as questioning myself if I was good enough from a young age, but I've grown from that. Anyway, my dad never stopped her family from seeing us, and I met my aunts and my grandparents. I did love being around them and everything, but around my teenage years, everything changed. I found out that they were still in contact with her and seemed to have a pretty good relationship. They just acted like what she had done to me didn't exist at all. I tried to move from my feelings, but I couldn't. So when I was 15, I told my dad I didn't want to see them anymore. He was shocked and asked me why, and I told him that the only connection I have to them is through my mom, and my mom isn't my mom, so they're not technically family. I was 15, okay? Bear with me. He tried talking to me several times, but I didn't budge. Finally, he ended up calling and talking of them and telling my feelings. They didn't understand, and even accused him of manipulating me, which he never has. They kept showing up at my dad's house without his permission and caused a lot of drama. At one point, they tried to sue for grandparents' rights, but it didn't work. I blocked them from my contact and just pretend they didn't exist. I had my siblings, dad, stepmom, grandparents, and aunts and uncles from my dad's side. I was going to be fine, and I was. I've moved on from them, and now I'm a nurse and living a pretty okay life. The problem, though, is I've been getting messages and emails from my grandpa. It's basically been saying that now that I'm grown and out of my dad's house, if I'd be willing to have a relationship with him again. I've been ignoring them for the most part, but decided to respond after he tried guilt-tripping me. I told him that I don't want a relationship with him or his wife or his daughters at all, and I'd appreciate if he left me alone. I told him it broke my heart as a kid when I saw him basically ignore his daughter's treatment of me and acted like everything was fine. He responded saying that they had their fights and disagreements over it, but he couldn't abandon her since she was still his daughter. I ended up telling him that if he wanted a relationship with me, he would have to cut her off. That seemed to shut him up, and he just said he is really sorry how everything played out and hopes in the future I'll be open to a relationship with him. I just got annoyed and told him to buzz off and blocked him again. I don't plan to ever speaking to him, and I'm just here since my friends think I was too harsh with him. Am I the a-hole? Even after you are an established adult, your crappy mom wants nothing to do with you. Ignore all of them. If it's okay their daughter abandoned you, they should be okay with you abandoning them. Thanks, that's my view. It's funny that he knew it was wrong to abandon his daughter, but didn't see the wrong with his daughter abandoning you. Right, double standard. But it's fine, I'm not losing anything keeping them away. Lol. Update. Am I the a-hole for sending my daughter to live with her grandmother and giving her clothes to her sister? Original story. Okay, so title is a doozy, but let me explain. I, 34 female, am a single mother with 2 children. 14 female and 11 female. Up until recently, they've had a typical sibling relationship. Bickering, but they ultimately love each other. This all changed on Thursday. I was taking 11 out for a birthday shop and had left 14 home alone. We were only gone for 2 hours. When we got back, everything was fine. 14 was doing her homework and she had done the chores I had asked her to. 11 ran up to her room to try on new clothes when I hear screaming. 14 had completely trashed her, 11's, room. Her clothes were cut up. Her makeup had been destroyed and smeared on the walls and desk. Her books had been ripped up and schoolwork missing. We found it in a bin bag outside and it was luckily unharmed along with her favorite stuffed animal. 11 was, understandably, in hysterics and 14 seemed to show remorse, but I was so overwhelmed that I called my mom and told her she needs to come pick 14 up. Whilst we were waiting, 11 was sifting through her stuff and I was in 14's room going through her clothes. She asked what I was doing, and I told her that since she destroyed 11's clothes, she needs some to wear whilst I get her some more. And I'm giving her 14's clothes for the time being. 14 still had enough clothes to wear though. She got super upset and went outside to wait for her grandma. It's Saturday and I was talking to my sister and friends about it. My sister called me an a-hole for shipping 14 off without trying to understand her motives and for giving her clothes to 11. She accused me favoring 11. My friends also said it was weird that I gave 14's clothes to 11 and that it was an odd punishment. Am I the a-hole? Info. I don't favor one daughter over the other. I grew up as the obvious second choice out of myself, and my sister and I strive to make them both feel loved. Literally last weekend, 11 went to stay with her uncle and cousin, so 14 and I could have a spa weekend together. So it's not like I neglected either of them. We're also very open about mental health in general, and this is one of the only times I've acted on anger/impulse in front of my kids. 14 doesn't have any diagnosed illnesses. It was a priority to get them both checked because I have mental illnesses. But 14 got checked in September 2020 and nothing came up. I'm going to get 14 a therapist, but it's hard due to recent events. Now for the top comments before reading the update. So, just suddenly, out of the blue, for no apparent reason, your daughter violently destroyed her sister's room and property? There's some missing info here. I heartily agree. 14 has some, obviously, pent-up issues toward 11. That is a massively destructive outburst, malicious and targeted. There's clearly some pent-up rage, but not necessarily because of 11. It's entirely possible that 14-year-old is being victimized by someone that is taking it out on a safe target. Not Dayhall. It was a good decision to remove one child from a clearly overwhelming situation, but now begins the work. You need to find out why this happened. There must be a reason somewhere. Don't make the mistake of just being angry with 14. There needs to be consequences, sure, but also some serious source finding. This had a reason. Not Dayhall. Separating the two girls was absolutely necessary, and it was a good idea for you to get some time and space so that you could cool down by sending the offending child to a neutral location with a supportive family member. The heat of the moment is not a good time for conversation. Since 14 destroyed 11's clothing, it is only just that some of 14's clothes to be given to her. It's not punishment, it's reparations. Why should you be forced to go out and spend money replacing clothing that 14 destroyed? I think your focus in getting everyone to a good mental place is absolutely spot on. Don't listen to people who think you were too hard on your older daughter because your response was logical and measured and thoughtful. You say you acted out of anger, but you were not nasty or punitive. You did exactly what I would have done, and did once. It is not productive to force people to live inside a pressure cooker. Edit. People are assuming I'm not talking to 14. I am. I also asked why she did what she did before her gran arrived, and she said she didn't know. Earlier today, she told me she wanted to smash things up. People also have an issue with the length that I've sent her away. I want to make sure 11 is okay mentally too. She had literally all of her belongings ruined, and I don't want to put her in a position where she has to live with someone who did that to her. I am planning on switching the girls. 11 goes to grandma and 14 comes to me. But again, I want to make sure everyone is okay mentally. Someone mentioned a TikTok trend where people trash other people's belongings. I know both 14 and 11 watch TikToks, so I might scroll through the videos to look for evidence. And now for the update. So 11 and I went to my mom's house for Easter and I saw 14. We had been talking on FaceTime and on call. She was happy to see me, and I told her we needed to have a long talk about what had happened. I said what she did was very out of character, and that I want to get to the bottom of it. I asked if 11 had done anything to provoke her and if she was jealous. She didn't believe 11 deserved a birthday out because 11 had neglected her chores the previous day. She didn't do the dishes after dinner like she's meant to. Whilst that was something to grasp onto, it didn't totally make sense, as I've never said you can't do X because of Y, unless they did something terrible or there was something we had to do like other commitments. I tried to press further into why 14 felt that way, but she didn't say. I also have never done this to 14. I asked if she had negative feelings. She said sort of. She says she gets super angry at random, and often inconsequential, things like YouTube taking longer to load, or if we don't have a snack she wants to eat. For example, but sometimes there is no reason, and she just gets angry, which is what happened on Thursday. She said she started with 11's lamp, then a glass on her counter, and the more stuff she smashed/destroyed, the better she felt. She explained the ordeal as her blacking out, because she didn't realize how far she'd gone until she had destroyed everything. She said she felt terrible though. She didn't tell me why she wrecked 11's room specifically, but I inferred it has to do with her feelings that 11 didn't deserve a birthday day out, so it was a punishment of sorts fueled by this irrational anger. I understand that 14's explanation may seem all over the place, but I was, and am, just happy to have something out of her, and hopefully she'll be able to work through it with professionals. I also apologized for kicking her out and letting my emotions get the better of me. She accepted. On Monday, 14 had her first meeting with a psychiatrist, Jane. She hasn't been able to diagnose 14 with anything yet, but from talking to 14 and Jane afterwards, It's likely 14 has narcissism disorder and perhaps intermittent explosive disorder, but these aren't concrete. I'm doing research on both these things to help 14 the best I can. I do want to address some things that were brought up a lot in the original post. The whole point of separating the girls was to help 11 come to terms with 98% of her stuff being obliterated off the face of the earth, to rebuild her room and safe space, to help her decide which broken objects she wants to keep, etc. It was a snap judgment fueled by emotion, definitely. But I still had to make a decision. 14 is very close to her grandmother, and if 14 is anything like me at that age, she'd spill to her grandmother. Sending 14 to her grandmother's house was not, and should never, be punishment. In that moment, I was so angry and out of my head that any attempt to have a civil sit-down chat with 14 would have inevitably turned into a screaming match, which is not what anyone needed/needs. Now comes the hard bit. 11 is traumatized. She said she'd come with me to see Grandma, but she didn't want to see 14. She told me she's afraid of 14, which I feel is warranted, but I haven't voiced that. She stayed in the car during the visit. 11 has almost reverted back to a young child. She started coming into my bed at night due to nightmares, and she also seems very detached from her former self. She's now quite cold, whereas she was very bubbly before. We've been very open about the whole situation, and 11 just says it's hard because she's lost things from friends and family members that were very valuable, as well as trivial things, like her favorite pair of socks or pen. I've done my best to try to substitute things. 11 has become very clingy to me, and my plan of switching living situations, 14 comes to me and 11 goes to Grandma, won't be happening anytime soon. 11 gets visibly panicked when I mention it. I'm going to get 11 a therapist, and after speaking to Jane, we all, Jane, Grandma, 14, and I, agreed that 14 should stay with Grandma until 11 is okay mentally. I'm still going to visit 14 regularly, and we plan to talk every night. I've also told 14 that she is going to have to pay for everything we buy for 11, and that's starting from next week. She'll have to re-earn her belongings through good behavior, chores, etc. Grandma's on board with this and is going to help me with it. Her electronic access is limited to schoolwork, and she can earn back minutes of electronic fun time, just like her belongings. So overall, things are getting slowly better, but it's going to be a long ride. Thank you to everyone who was actually helpful. It meant a lot. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for sending my daughter away? I, 52 female, am a single mom with 5 kids. 3 of them are adults, and 2, 14 female and 13 male, are minors who live with me. Their father is currently incarcerated. 14 female has been diagnosed with major depressive disorder and severe anxiety, and has been struggling with it for the past 2 years. I've tried to be there to support her, but I work a lot to make ends meet. There has been some issues in my past that may have contributed to her condition, alcoholism, but I'm working on getting it under control. The problem is that I feel like she isn't making any progress. She has meds that apparently aren't working anymore, and she's been hospitalized twice. I feel like she isn't implementing any of the skills and coping mechanisms she's learned. She says that she's trying, but it's harder than I think it is. I've been through my own issues before, and I do realize that is not easy, but I feel like it's been long enough. So I made the decision to send her to her aunt's house for a few weeks. I think she'll be able to have a more rigid schedule and support system over there. I told her about it last night, and she freaked out. Told me that I didn't love her and that I was just sick of dealing with her and her issues. And when I stuck my ground, she told me that she didn't feel safe at her aunt's house and should go anywhere but there, which I think are just excuses. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. Some additional information. 1. She had a therapist for months, but she was the one who wanted to stop, about a month ago. Because apparently, her therapist was saying a lot of things that made her feel bad about herself. I'm actively looking for a new one within our budget. 2. I love my daughter very much, despite what you think. 3. My adult children do not speak to me. They keep in touch with their younger siblings, but I don't even know where they live. 4. I probably should have included it in the post. But another reason for sending her away is for my son's sake. He hates seeing his sister like that, and it makes him extremely upset that she won't interact with him anymore as they grew up very close. Also, they have drastically different relationship with their father, and it's something that causes fights between them. He regularly speaks to and visited, because of COVID, him, and she has been no contact for about 2 years now. Now for the top comments. The biggest Yordi a-hole I can possibly give. Let's count out why. 1. You're quick to dismiss that your alcoholism has seriously contributed to her illness and give yourself plenty of leeway in getting it under control, which you don't give her, despite the fact that she's 14. Being 14 is hard enough. 2. If she's not making any progress, why would sending her somewhere she really hates be any better? It's obvious you're just trying to get rid of her, so it's less headache for you. And she's definitely aware of that. 3. The fact that she's saying anywhere but there about her aunt's house is so upsetting. How do you know nothing bad has happened to her there? Have you even bothered asking why she doesn't feel safe there? At 14, sounds like this poor kid has been through more than some adults. The fact that she's been hospitalized multiple times is terrifying. Take actual care of her and ask her what she needs. 4. And don't forget Dad is in prison. This brings to mind 2 possibilities. He may be the better emotionally supportive parent and is now unavailable. 5. Dad may also have been an addict, /alcoholic, /violent, adding to the chaotic childhood caused by mom's alcoholism. I know not all prisoners are addicts or abusers, but this seems a strong possibility. 6. I wonder if one of the 3 adult children were parentified, so she's lost her real mom. Yordi a-hole. She didn't feel safe at her aunt's house and should go anywhere but there. If she doesn't feel safe at her aunt's place, then don't send her to her aunt's place. If you dismiss this as just an excuse, I think I can see why she may have some diagnosis. Yordi a-hole for so many reasons. I'm surprised no one has brought it up. You're an alcoholic that's still working on getting it under control as a 52-year-old adult. Why are you allowed 50+ years to get your crap under control, but your child needs a timeline? Your child deserves better than you. Edit 2. Okay, I get it. I am the a-hole. I have thrown away the idea of sending my daughter to her aunt's. My eldest daughter drove 3 hours to pick 14 female up, and she tore into me when she got here. As much as some of you are reading between the lines and drawing conclusions that aren't true, a lot of you have really good points. I can't be a good parent when I'm not dealing with my own issues in a healthy way. I'm going to work harder to solve them. I will try to let my older daughter know about the possible abuse and see if she can get her to open up. Because obviously 14 female will not talk to me about it right now. Lastly, big screw you to the people leaving death threats in my PMs. It's never okay, even if you think I'm the most awful person in the world. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents to punish my sister? I, 15 female, live with my parents and my siblings, 11 female and 8 male. My sister and I do not have a good relationship. I think she's spoiled, entitled, and whiny as hell. I think my parents let her act however the heck she wants to act, and they don't give a crap how it affects everyone else. It's like she's still 2 years old, allowed into everyone's things, to interrupt when people are talking, is allowed to dictate stuff even when it's meant to be someone else's turn. Like my brother's birthday. He wanted burgers and she wanted pizza. So pizza it was. Even though her favorite place he doesn't like and it was his birthday, or when it was mine and I wanted tacos and she wanted pizza. Another time I was babysitting and my brother and I wanted McDonald's and she wanted pizza again, and she threw an epic tantrum because she couldn't get her way, and then our parents told me I was wrong. Even for family time, she will throw a tantrum if she doesn't like the movie chosen, and then she gets to choose. They've even changed my brother's last 2 birthday parties to do what she likes, instead of what he likes. And he was heartbroken the last time because he really wanted to do karting. I hate it. She's not a baby. She's just spoiled, and I do not like spending time with her. I only spend time with her when it's family time, and even then, it's such a PITA. I have a diary where I vent about her, so I won't end up saying that stuff to her face. I keep it under my mattress. Yesterday, I was dropping off stuff at my grandparents' house, and when I got home, she had turned my room upside down and she found my diary. She was hurt by the stuff she read, and mad about it too, and she threw another tantrum. But I was more pissed. My parents were mad at me when she snooped and tossed my stuff around. They said my punishment should be having to clean it up, which I found really unfair, and I told them it was her that should be punished. I told them nobody will want to deal with her eventually if she keeps acting like that, and she deserved to be punished for doing what she did. My parents were then even more mad that I was telling them what to do and how to parent. They said I should apologize for that. I don't think it's wrong when they're the ones encouraging bad behavior. I also think it's unfair when they let her get away with crap. Not Dayhole. You need to start throwing a tantrum back and get your brother involved as well. Two can yell louder than one. A resounding chorus of "that's not fair," "she's a brat," etc. may start resonating with your parents. If they want an easy life and giving into her is it, then play her at her own game. Birthday party-wise, definitely start outright refusing. No, it is my/brother's birthday. If she doesn't like it, she's not invited. And definitely start telling your sister this stuff directly. I don't want you at my birthday. You're trying to change it to what you want, so you aren't welcome. Keep it up, ignore the tears, etc. Refuse to apologize and speak calmly to parents about their favoritism and how they're ruining your birthdays to the point you won't want anything to do with your sister when you're old enough to have a choice. This stuff will sink in, but be clear and direct. Speak with authority. Not Dayhole. This is clear favoritism. She's going to have a hard time when she gets older and people stop tolerating her shenanigans. Your parents are mad at you because you're right. If they weren't so bad at parenting, you wouldn't need to tell them how to parent. She will probably manipulate other people. Not Dayhole. She's their golden child. They don't want to acknowledge it, but it's true. So many stories on Reddit about the golden child and how parents indulge them to the detriment of their relationships with their other kids, such as in the case of you and your brother. These actions they're doing right now will be the roots of your low/no contact with them and your sister in the future. Not Dayhole. Your parents are enabling her behavior, and they're either willfully ignorant about it or know exactly what they're doing and have picked her out as the golden child. Can you go to your grandparents about how your parents and sister are acting? They've tried before. My parents don't care. It annoys the crap out of them too. Update. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to give any money to my pregnant ex? Original story. My ex, 25 female and I, 27 male, were together about 6 months. But during that time we were free to see other people. Things weren't working out, so we broke up. Over a month after that, she finds out she's pregnant and tells me baby is mine. But I already knew she was seeing other guys, so it was also possible the baby isn't. She got mad that I was having doubts. But I said if we got a paternity test and it showed I'm the dad, then yeah, I'll 100% be involved. My ex didn't want that, and she'd rather wait until after the baby is born to get a test done. So I said that's fine, it's her choice. But I won't get myself involved unless I know the baby is mine. Like, I already know I could be set up for child support if I start helping out now, and then later it's revealed I'm not the father. I live in the US and have heard this stuff happens a lot. I'd rather not even risk it, you know? She's about 8 months now, and I have started saving up money, reading up some books, making shopping cart lists of baby clothes and furniture to buy in case I am the father, so it's not like I'm not preparing for this at all. So right now, money's tight with her since I know she's only working part-time. She doesn't have money for baby bassinet or clothes because she practically lives paycheck to paycheck. She started asking to let her borrow money for baby stuff, but I've told her no. As far as I know, she doesn't have other family she's close to, and friends are the same as her with money. But I already said I'll start giving her money and helping out once I know her son is mine. Otherwise, I'd rather not get involved. I've even told her to reach out to the other guys who could also be the dads, but she said one is even more broke, and the other she hasn't been able to contact. So for right now, seems like I'm the only one actually able to offer financial support. We have a couple mutual friends and I'm getting crap from them because they know I have the money to help out. She could be the mom of my kids, so the least I could do is provide. They say they would if they had the money. Since I do have the means and this baby could be mine, I should already be helping. They have a point. The baby could be mine and I'll be happy to help out. Once I know he is in fact mine. But everyone else is seeing it as I'm being too cold and inconsiderate. I don't think I am, but I want to know what others believe. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. You don't owe her anything until you're sure of paternity. And to be honest, if she can't afford to have a kid, regardless of who the father is, she shouldn't be having a kid. Took the words right out of my mouth. Let's not forget either that I can't reach one guy and the other is broke is a her problem, and likely the only reason she's trying to peg OP as the father. I'm not sure why she would even keep a baby if she can't afford it, especially if 2 out of 3 of the possible fathers can't provide. I wouldn't want to be stuck paying for a kid that wasn't mine either. Seems like this girl really messed up, and if she is in such dire financial straits, it will only get worse after she delivers and can't work for a bit. You would think she would have gotten the test if she was hurting for cash that bad, but the fact that she didn't shows me she thinks he probably isn't a father. I wouldn't help the ex at all. Not financially or otherwise until he knows the paternity of the kid. Family court is a strange beast, and I wouldn't give them any reason to make him responsible if the child turns out to not be his. Edited to add, I just read that not only did you use protection, she did too. So that coupled with her not wanting to get the paternity test tells me she doesn't think you're the father. She just thinks you're the best financial option, which you are. Don't help or give her a dime until paternity is established, because there is a huge chance it's not yours. You actually have friends who want you to give money to an ex-girlfriend who could be pregnant with another guy's baby? Tell those people to give her their own money, then wait for the paternity test. Not a-hole. Adding on to this comment because it's the only one I can find at the moment regarding money. I have 2 children myself. When I was pregnant, I needed $0. That's right. 0. None of the appointments charged a copay, and I had terrible insurance during parts of my second pregnancy. As far as items for the baby, I know at least 6 Facebook groups off the top of my head for my area where people give away every damn thing you need for a baby. Cribs, clothes, strollers, car seats, bottles, heck even breast pumps, surplus formula, diapers and wipes. There are social programs she can get set up with and her doctor can help her. She can apply for WIC and get all that stuff for free. She doesn't need any money from Opie. She sounds like she is just hoping he will be the dad because he sounds like the best choice out of the potential list of fathers. Do not let her put your name on a birth certificate until you have had a paternity test, or you will be screwed for money till the kid is 18, even if it is not yours. Now for the update. Hasn't been that long, but thought I should update since many of you wanted to know. Following what a few here suggested, I tried talking to my ex again about getting the prenatal paternity test done right now, since she kept pressing me about giving her money. I said if her situation is that bad, then let's have this test done already. So if the baby is mine, I can start helping now. Because if we waited until after birth, she was going to have to wait for my support until the results came in. Plus, if she still refused a paternity test, then it would be more waiting around to get a court-ordered test. Meaning, no help from me at all for a while, even after the baby is already here. So yeah, she agreed to it in the end. He's not mine. I just got the results day before yesterday. My ex didn't really have much to say. She only texted, "Fine then, I won't bother you anymore." I told her I was sorry and wished her luck. Also told her about what you guys commented about Facebook posts selling or giving away used baby stuff, plus the WIC program that could help her out since she's low income. But she didn't respond after that and haven't heard from her since, so I don't know if she'll look into those. Not gonna lie, I'm a little disappointed. I know I was having my doubts about this baby being mine and was keeping my distance. But like I said, I was mentally and physically preparing in case he was, so that I could be there as a father. Still feel that loss, but at least now I know for sure. I appreciate everyone who commented, and thanks for the info and advice. I'm sorry to hear about your disappointment, but you did everything you could to help, to a reasonable extent, by providing resources for her to look into. Sad for Opie, sad for the child, and for the mom. Hope the rightful dad and mom can figure out a way so that this little one doesn't have to struggle in life. Not they whole. I wouldn't hold my breath on the actual father ever stepping up. So sad all around. I'm rabidly pro-choice, but in situations like this, I cannot fathom why would one choose to have the kid and raise them. Thanks for the update. I was curious about how the situation was going to turn out. Since you knew she was seeing other guys, you did the smartest thing you could have done. Establish paternity as the first step. It's understandable that you may be left with a feeling of loss. For a period of time, there was the potential that you brought another human into the world. That potential is now gone. You seem like a good guy, and have never been the a-hole in this situation. Not the a-hole. Yeah, exactly. Hard not to feel some sort of attachment at the possibility of having a kid. I know it's not the same as actually losing a kid. He was never mine to begin with, but I guess there's still that emptiness and sadness. I know I'll get over it in time. The news is still fresh and all. Just a suggestion. Could you all throw her a baby shower? Especially the friends who told you off for not helping her. What are they doing now? Funny how people clam up when they could need help. Maybe, yeah. Probably wouldn't be able to actually meet with COVID. Plus, she's due soon. Their issue was they were all just as broke as her, but I don't see why pitching in on a gift would be a problem for them. Not Dayhall. My cousin just found out the baby he thought was his daughter isn't his. She lied, and the baby is over a year old now. They weren't together, and the baby went back and forth between them each week until he received the paternity results. He gave her $2,000 a month. Everyone in our family is heartbroken because now she is keeping her from him since he discovered the truth. He's a mess. A lot less painful. Really smart of you to do this. It's crazy people do this. Wow, I'm really sorry for your cousin. I hope things get better for him. Can't even imagine how hard that must be. I don't know why people need to lie. Needing money or feeling like you don't have any other option, I guess, is one reason. But why at the cost of someone else's life and your child's too? Anyways, that's a really tough situation. I hope he gets some help. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving my brother part of the money my dad left me? My brother and I, 27 male, are a year apart, so he's 1 year older than me. When he was 3, it all came out that my mom was having an affair and my brother's real dad was the one she was cheating with. The guy was secretly coming over to spend time with my brother until they decided to tell my dad because he wanted to be involved. I was still little, but from what I was told, this crushed my dad. Even when he talked to me about it years later, it still made him upset. They already knew the other guy was the bio dad, but my dad did a paternity test on both of us to make sure. I was the only one that was his. My parents divorced and I was living between households. So, my brother's dad was involved and living with my mom. But when my brother was 9, he took off and left them, so my mom was struggling. After that, my parents started fighting over my mom wanting my dad to be involved in my brother's life too, since he was his dad before all of this. This drama dragged for years, but my dad refused to help with my brother. My dad moved to another city 9 hours away due to work when I was 11. They let me move with him, so I saw my mom 2 to 3 times a month plus school breaks. She still pushed for my brother to go with me when my dad would come pick me up. So around 16, I just stopped going. My dad unfortunately had a heart attack a few months ago, and I lost him. I miss him every day, and the last few months have been really draining emotionally. What's happening right now is starting to weigh down on me. Since I was my dad's only son, and he never remarried, basically everything went to me. I'm not a millionaire or anything, but with this kind of money, my student loans would be paid off completely. My wife and I are talking about a kid soon, and the rest of the money could be put into those expenses. My brother and I don't talk that much, but he's been calling and messaging non-stop about this. He says it's unfair for my dad to leave him out like this, and he deserved some of that money too. And he thinks it's only right that I split the money with him since he was my dad's son at one point. And I mean, yeah, he was for 3 years, but then he had his dad for a while, and my dad never had involvement with my brother since the divorce. Even my mom is giving me gripes and telling me not to be an a-hole like my dad by excluding my brother. I'm just really mad about the whole thing. He left that money for me, and it will be a huge help to pay off those debts and then invest the rest in our kid. But I don't know if not wanting to split what I received with him an a-hole thing or not. Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. There's no responsibility to him. It doesn't matter that he was his dad for all of a whopping 3 years. He had his dad. They chose him, and only guilted your father when they were jilted. Your mother has turned him into an entitled person like her. Not a-hole. How much do you remember from being a 3-year-old? If anything, your mom is an a-hole. Sorry for talking crap on your mom. for pushing him on your dad and probably building up the injustice of it all with him. But no, you are not an a-hole. Don't worry about it. Have my own issues with her, not related to the cheating or this, so I don't take any offense. Not an a-hole. You do not need to give your brother any of the money your dad left you. In fact, it would be disrespectful to your dad's memory to do it, knowing how he felt about the situation. I am not sure where your mom got the idea that it is other people's responsibility to work out the complications she created in her life by cheating and having child with a man other than her husband, but that makes her an a-hole. She was fine with divorcing your dad and living with the other guy, and only wanted your dad to be involved when the other guy turned out to be a deadbeat. You were not responsible for the fact that your brother's dad is such a loser. Your brother and you don't talk that much. But all of a sudden, he is constantly in touch because he wants your money? That's a-hole behavior. If he wants help, he should reach out to his father and ask. If that doesn't work out, that's his problem, not yours. You were an innocent bystander to all this, and you don't owe anyone anything here. I would tell him and your mother that the answer is no. You are honoring your father's wishes, and nothing they will say changed your mind about that. The money will be used for your debts and to start your family on a good footing. Tell them the next time they mention it, you will block their numbers and do your best to move on without them. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for respecting my late wife's wishes about keeping her family out? My wife unfortunately passed away last year when our daughter was only 3 months old. It was very difficult to get through, but my little girl and I are keeping it together. My daughter is 16 months now, and there's been pressure from my wife's sister to let her side of the family see my daughter. The issue is, my wife had absolutely no contact with her family since she was 18. So 16 years of not seeing them. Her home life was something she never wanted to talk about. It always made her upset, so I never pushed her to tell me. All I know is that they were manipulative and abusive in some form. She left as soon as she was 18, changed her last name, and never spoke to them again. 4 years ago, she got into contact with her older sister, and she's the only person my wife allowed into our lives. By that, I mean we met through video chat, but never actually in person. We still maintained contact after my wife passed, and we met a couple times before and during my wife's funeral. My sister-in-law called me a few weeks ago. She mentioned her parents would really like to meet their granddaughter and want to start over. They didn't attend my wife's funeral because they knew she wouldn't want them to be there. One thing my wife always made clear is that she did not want them near our daughter. Ever. I told my sister-in-law this. Well, she got very upset. She said it's been years, and yes, her parents were awful people. Again, won't say exactly what they did, but losing their daughters made them reflect on things. And they want to meet my daughter since my wife never gave them that chance. She's still trying to convince me, and so far I've said no. Each time I just feel more and more bad for denying them. But it's what my wife wanted. Her parents found my Facebook. Pretty sure sister-in-law might have told them, and I've gotten dozens of messages begging me to let my daughter know her mom's side of the family. And I should keep her from knowing her grandparents for past mistakes. None of them will leave me alone, and sister-in-law has said a few times that I may be grieving losing a wife, but to have some empathy for them losing a child. Because right now, I'm being too heartless for denying them the chance to meet the only piece of my wife they have left. I am at my wit's end with this, because I am not sure if I am being a-hole or not. I don't know the whole reason why my wife never wanted to see them again. Even if I did though, I'd still like to honor her wish. The way they are being, however, makes it hard not to wonder if I am. Not at a-hole. All I know is they were manipulative and abusive in some form. The best prediction of future behavior is past behavior. None of them will leave me alone. I'm at my wit's end with this because I am not sure if I'm being a-hole or not. You are getting a glimpse of their manipulative tactics. One thing my wife always made clear is that she did not want them near our daughter. Ever. Honor her wish. If the family really didn't attend a funeral to respect her wishes, I'm sure they'd do the same here. Don't let them near your daughter ever, OP. And talk to a lawyer. The death of a parent can be grounds for grandparents' rights. Do not even answer. Not answering is a response, and many times better than saying no. You gotta protect your daughter the way your wife tried to protect her and herself. The only thing you know is that they were manipulative, yet your wife could get very upset if her family was mentioned. So imagine all the trauma she had to deal with. Maybe she was the space goat, and that's why her sister defends them. Either way, break contact with the sister too. Does she keep in contact with you out of genuine interest of her nephew/niece, or because she sees that the door could be slightly open to let her parents in, now that the factor who didn't want them is dead? What if one day you meet with the sister and suddenly you see two older people with her? They won't let you escape. This is not a coincidence that now they want to be in your lives. They already wanted to insert themselves, and a channel to that was the sister, who has probably given them a lot of information and photos you may have shared with her. This sister-in-law is fighting her parents to fight for them now, and the fact that neither she nor your wife told them exactly why your wife went no contact is terrifying. She's crossing boundaries left and right. She's shown you who she is, so believe her and cut her off. Not Dahal. Do not let them have anything to do with your daughter. The last thing you want is to allow them to have a relationship with your daughter. And then after a while, you see exactly why your wife didn't want anything to do with them. Because depending where you live, if they have an established relationship with your daughter, they can go for grandparents' rights. As of right now, they have no grounds. Cut the sister-in-law off too. She's just giving you a taste of how toxic the rest of your wife's family are. Protect your child. Thank you for the advice. With everything on my plate, it's just been so overwhelming, and now this whole situation. I want to be able to honor my wife's wishes, whatever the reason was that made her cut all contact with them. First story is titled, Update. Am I the a-hole for not wanting my half-brother to have the same name as me? Original story. This is a really weird question, but for some reason it's turned into a whole issue. When I, 16 male, was born, my parents named me Giuseppe after my grandpa on my mom's side. My parents divorced when I was 5, but my mom got sick when I was 12 and passed away a year later, so I had to go live full-time with my dad. 2 years ago, my dad started dating Kaylee until they got married. I'm not close with Kaylee, but that's not because we don't like each other. We just don't talk a lot, and I'm always staying with my grandma or uncle on my mom's side when I'm not at my dad's. They found out they're pregnant months ago and also learned it's a boy. Ever since, Kaylee keeps saying she also wants her son to be named Giuseppe because she likes the name so much and how it sounds. I straight up told her that's my name and would be weird having my half-brother having the exact same name as me. Kaylee said it wasn't weird at all, and I don't own the name, so I can't say it's mine. She seemed really mad that I called it weird and said I should get used to it because that's the name they're deciding on. My dad backed her up at first, but we talked a little more. I just told him it did feel right for us two to have the exact same name, and maybe that could be a middle name or something if she likes it so much. He talked to Kaylee about changing it as a middle name so the first name can be something else, but she just got more mad. Now she says I'm ruining this whole experience by making a big deal of her name. My dad is in the middle. He's willing to back me up and not let Kaylee name their baby that, but says I should just let it go. My uncle, Dad's brother, and some of my friends agree it's weird, but Kaylee's being super cold, so I don't know if I'm wrong here. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Personally, I find that really weird. I'm surprised your dad agreed to it at first. Dad only agreed because she's the one usually in charge and can withhold fun time. Not the a-hole, OP. That's just wrong, and I think the middle name would be fine, but should probably call him by the middle name then. Call me cynical and hardened to toxic families, but my worst assumption is she wants to replace this kid that she likes less with a new one by the same name. She's trying to cause a divide, and OP should keep making us think about it. Not the a-hole. That's weird as F for two brothers to have the same name. Where is the baby's sense of identity when he literally has the same name as his brother? Where is his individuality? They did this to Vincent van Gogh, and it messed up his head. In the Netherlands, it was very common to reuse a name if a previous child was stillborn or died very young. Happened to my father-in-law, who got the name of a brother who deceased before he was born, 1943. Not the a-hole, obviously. If it were me, I would have said, I'm honored you would name your firstborn after me. I would be such a pretentious prig about it that she would no longer want to use the name. Yes, this is awesome. maybe also double down. And since Soapy's already so much older, pretend to muse aloud, I bet a lot of people will think he's really mine since it's named after me. So let's call him Junior in public. Now for the update 2 months later, my little brother was born last week, and I'm still the only Giuseppe in the family, and my grandpa. I did like some of you were saying to do, and had another talk with my dad to get him to understand. I'm glad everyone agreed it was super weird, and for bringing up that it could cause some identity issues in the future if we have the same name. Plus, the fact that it feels like she's trying to replace me and take a name away that she didn't even know about until she met me. My dad actually heard me this time, and he said he was sorry for not fully thinking about how this would make me feel. He listened more when I brought up the identity thing and how it could cause problems for us in the future, so thanks for mentioning that. But after that, he still wouldn't talk to Kaylee about changing her mind. My uncle, his brother, and his other family actually started giving him after I told them. They told him that's weird AF, and my uncle even told Kaylee too, which made her super mad. So after, my dad was like, okay, he's not gonna be named that at all. They had lots of fights over it because Kaylee wouldn't let it go. But my dad said there was no way in hell the baby was also gonna be named Giuseppe, and they were gonna have a big problem if she tries to name him that. Not gonna say it threatened to end things, cause I wasn't in the room when they had their fight, but it was pretty big the way he said it. So yeah, she gave up, but she was being super witchy to me for a while. It was awkward, but whatever. I was just glad she stopped with the name thing. The name they gave my brother isn't close to mine at all. Anyways, he's really cute. My dad says he looks just like me when I was born. Gonna be boring until I can play with him in a few months. Lol. Kaylee's still being different, but she doesn't say anything when I'm holding my brother. He cries a lot, but I love him a lot, and happy he's not Giuseppe 2.0. I find it weird that your dad didn't talk to Kaylee after you spoke with him. He only talked to Kaylee after his family tore into him. He is a spineless partner. If he was spineless, he wouldn't have stepped up in the end. I agree it didn't start well, but I think it didn't give thought to how big of a deal it actually was. Yes, very dense, I agree. But he did in the end put his foot down, and that is notable. Being spineless would have been bringing it up and then dropping it when she pushed back. If he was spineless, he would have 2 sons named Giuseppe. Give him a little credit. That sounds promising. Has anyone actually seen the birth certificate though? I'm not sure I'd put it past Kaylee just naming him Giuseppe anyway. Lol, yeah, my dad was there when they filled out the forms. This is a missed opportunity for you to go by OG, original Giuseppe, after your brother was born. I'd rather be the OG, only Giuseppe. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for yelling at my mother-in-law for calling my son the wrong name? Even before my wife and I started to think about kids, her mother has wanted us to name a son after her father. Let's say the name is Sherman. It's not actually Sherman, but think of something equally generational, or old-fashioned perhaps. The important thing is, from day one, I have absolutely hated the name. At the end of 2020, my wife and I welcomed the baby boy to the world. Hooray! But since the day we announced the gender, her mother ramped up the Sherman campaign. You might even say it was to the point of scorched earth. Luckily, my wife and I gave each other 10 no questions asked rejects when it came to names. Obviously, Sherman was the first to go. Ultimately, we named our son something we both really liked. Let's say his name is Alexander. Over the past 3 months, my mother-in-law has been a constant presence. In the beginning, that was a really nice thing. Having an extra pair of hands was a godsend when the wife was waking up every hour to breastfeed and I was doing laundry, bottles, and 5S'ing on a never-ending loop. And frankly, it continues to help. She makes us dinner, she takes care of the baby, etc. But you can probably guess where the story is going. With increasing frequency over the last few weeks, she's taking to calling our son Sherm or Lil Sherm. She never calls him Alexander or Alex. The first dozen times I let it slide. The next dozen times it started to grate on me. The next dozen times, I started to remind her to call him by the right name in a joking way. The next dozen times, I reminded her in a matter-of-fact way to call him the right name. All throughout, I've told the wife about my building annoyance. We have a tacit agreement that we would handle our own families. She said she would talk to her mother about it. To be honest, I don't know when she did or how forceful she was, but clearly nothing had changed. Today I blew up at my mother-in-law. I told her how disrespectful it was to me and Alex that she continued to call him by the wrong name. That I didn't want him to be confused about his actual name. That she should call him by his real name or not come by anymore. She didn't really say much in response. I think she said something about how she's just been trying to help. She got her things, said bye to my wife, and left. My wife thinks I'm overreacting. She says it's just a nickname, no different from buddy or pal. Now she's especially upset because there's more stuff for the two of us to do. She hasn't said outright that I should apologize or anything, but I feel like she wants me to. Ultimately, I feel bad that I put my wife in this situation given she's still recovering, and maybe it really wasn't that big a deal. But I also don't feel bad making myself clear to someone who clearly is disregarding my wishes in my own house with my child. So I guess, am I the a-hole? To my wife, for not just sucking it up given all the help her mother has provided and might continue to provide? Edit. Many of you are asking why I did correct her from the get-go. I don't know how many of you have had kids, but in those first weeks when adjusting to new fatherhood, getting barely any sleep, and more worried about doing the right thing for baby, this honestly didn't even register. Even now, looking back, those first weeks were like a brain fog. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your son has the right to be referred to by his name. Pick a random name and start calling your mother-in-law that. Let's see how she likes it. Hi Dave, how are you? This is brilliant. Not the a-hole. She's not respecting any of you. You've asked her to not do that, and she hasn't. She's doing it on purpose for her own reasons. Not the a-hole. You did what was right. Although you and your wife might have to deal with the after effect of not getting an extra hand. But at least you set things straight, not just in the name aspect but in other aspects that are yet to come. No gain without pain. Not the a-hole. Calling a child by a completely different name isn't really a nickname. What is she trying to accomplish with this? Sherman isn't his name. It will never be his name. Did she think if she used it enough he would respond to that over his actual name? Personally, I think you should have been more direct from the beginning of her using the incorrect name, but you definitely aren't the a-hole. I get why your wife is upset at losing mother-in-law's help, but she shouldn't have allowed her mother's behavior to get so bad in the first place. Also, your mother-in-law couldn't be your third sets of hands forever anyway. Seeing as she couldn't respect something as basic as the name you chose for your child, what makes you think she will respect your future decisions as parents? Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not telling my parents we were adopting a child? I, 42 male, live with my wife, 40 female. We were married 12 years ago. My parents, my mother in particular, went out of their way to try and ruin it for us. My mother demanded an invite when my wife went dress shopping, then made fun of my wife when she tried on dresses and called one of the bridesmaids fat. My wife told her to leave. She tried to refuse, but one of the bridal attendants booted her out. She tried to post this long Facebook post about how awful she was treated, but she deleted it after I posted that it was funny how she left out, how she made fun of her and called one of her bridesmaids fat. My wife stonewalled her from any other wedding planning. My mother complained, but my wife just said she had a chance and she blew it. My mother hates that my wife won't be cowed by her like my sister-in-law is. My wife just doesn't get two flips about my mother or father or their boundary-stomping ways. My father gave a drunken speech at the wedding that was mortifyingly inappropriate and ended up getting himself and my equally drunk mother booted from the reception. We went so low contact it was practically non-existent after that. Present issue? We're in the final stages of adopting a child we've been fostering for the last few years. My parents have found out about this somehow and have been blowing up my phone since. They aren't happy about it. Not because I didn't tell them, but because how dare the child not to be the same skin color as us. My father accused us of getting a black market baby. I just hang up the phone and block them. But our child, who we got as an older child in foster care, asked if he was causing us problems. I said absolutely not. My parents were just awful people. Now, they're having other family members contact us to try and get information from my parents who are spinning some tale about how we're denying them access to their grandchild. They're conveniently leaving out the part where they threw a fit he was a different color than us and accused us of getting him off the black market. When I tell people what actually happened, Their tune changes usually, but my brother, their golden child, is up my about how much of an a-hole I'm being to our parents and how I need to stop letting my wife brainwash me against them. I told him to go crawl back up our parents' butt and blocked him. I don't think I'm the a-hole here at all, but my parents and brother and a couple other family members think I'm the a-hole for withholding information from them. Am I the a-hole here? Now for the top comments. I was on your side within the first couple of sentences. Not an a-hole. Some people think that family is family and absolutely needs to be involved, when that is not the case. It is better to not have grandparents than have toxic ones. By the way, thank you so much for adopting an older child. As a kid that aged out of the foster system and had to join the army so that I had somewhere to live, most of us in the system knew that by the time we hit 7 to 8, we were stuck in the system until aging out. Good on y'all. It is better to have not grandparents than have toxic ones. Spot on. Family is what you make it. Live well, OP. Enjoy your found family and the one you created. Not the a-hole. Here's the thing. When you act horribly and top it off by being racist, people will reasonably take steps to reduce unnecessary contact with you. Congratulations on the adoption. Currently not the a-hole. You would be the a-hole if you subjected your child to your parents, though. Your son should not have to go through life wondering why they're being treated differently from his or her cousins, and why grandma and grandpa make passive-aggressive remarks under their breath. Good luck. You and your wife are doing a wonderful thing in giving a child a home in the future. Not the a-hole. My sister is a different skin color than the rest of my family. My dad's stepdad is an awful human being and made several comments about it, and made her feel less than. We no longer go to their home as a whole family and he is not allowed to talk to her. We had to explain that him being an a-hole is in no way her fault. It's his responsibility, and it's our responsibility as the people who love her to not subject her to racists and bigots. Especially if your kid is a teenager, please keep explaining that your family is awful and you adopted them to give them a family that loves them, not to subject them to more toxic people. Be prepared to cut your brother off too. Tell him, I know you disagree with my decision, but this is my child and I know what is best for them. If you can't agree to drop this and let me handle it the way I think is best, I will have to put our relationship on pause for the time being. And hold firm to those boundaries. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.